Hi, I'm Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
And I'm Ginny Oliva Smith. Welcome to Soul Rising.
On this podcast, you will hear honest, off-the-cuff, vulnerable conversations about all things love, loss, and connection.
Deep and meaningful conversations sure to pull at your heartstrings and enlighten your soul.
Again, welcome. It's time to let your soul rise.
Are you unhappy in your marriage? Are you wondering where the butterflies went? Are you constantly feeling let down by your partner and convinced someone else will make you happy? Do you keep attracting the same kind of person who cannot meet your needs? Welcome back, guys.
What is up, you guys? Happy Halloween time.
Yes, this is the eve of the Day of the Dead, right?
Dia de los Muertos, that's right. And I need to set my stuff up tonight.
To set your edge and celebrate that.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's kind of cool. And today I think is All Souls Day. I don't know if it's Christianity or just Catholicism, but All Souls Day.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So we recognize all of our
Here we
loved
go.
ones.
And I forgot to light a candle for us.
my gosh.
I'm going to pull out a candle right now.
Yes, especially for today.
Light that baby up.
Yeah, they talk about, I think it's probably all similar regs. We talk about this being the time of year that the veil is the thinnest between the spiritual world and us. So all kinds of cultures recognize that.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. It's our day.
It is.
So this is episode 16. This is the last episode in season 1.
What a trip, right? And it's been crazy. It's such an awesome, amazing journey. Amanda and I both have had like all these wonderful life things and evolutions in this period of time. And I feel like a huge part of it's probably because we're doing this with you guys.
Yeah.
Honestly.
100%. It feels different.
It does.
When we know that there's other people that our words are affecting, or that you may feel some kind of connection, this like greater rippling effect, spreading out like a pebble in the pond. And it's one of you guys feels so purposeful. And we want to thank you so much for being with us and for listening to our shows and all that jazz. So we're going to come back in a couple weeks with season 2, and we're going to start our guest interviews.
I'm excited about that. Because we're still also we're going to try to keep it mixed and balanced because Amanda and I tend to be able to vibe off each other really well. So you're still going to get those shows from us where it's just Amanda and myself. And actually, you'll probably be able to see us.
Yes, we're going to do video. We're just going to be like hanging out, like having coffee.
Yes. And then also there'll be a whole binge season if you feel like it. But we will have all of this also up on YouTube. Which will be very accessible. So you'll be able to catch us there too.
Shout out to Ginny for setting that up for us.
Oh, we're getting there. It's going to be great. But yeah, this will be the tail end of that full bingeable evening time on your ride to work or whatever you guys want. So be looking out for us on YouTube as well. You can still find us everywhere else. Whatever works for you guys. It's just one more way for you to find us. That's
awesome. Cool. Awesome. So again, thank you so much for being here. And tell your friends. We've started talking about ripple in the pond. We rise together. We're trying to build this community.
Exactly. Amanda and I talk about all the crazy things and development and life and challenges that each of us are going through. She and I are two people. We know we're going through it. So we have zero doubt that you guys are on that like fast track development, evolving, which means also your life's probably got all kinds of crazy shit happening, like us.
Yeah, like what's going on in your marriage right now?
Oh, that's or
your relationships in general.
Oh, God. Or your search for one.
Or your search for, exactly.
Yeah, or your process of ending one, or in between.
So we're calling this one, Where is My Fairy Tale? And I freaking love that.
Me too.
That phrase came up because what happens, right? What happens? Like we meet somebody and everything's great. Everything's awesome. Like we're on top
fire.
of the world. And they're awesome.
It's such a dopamine drop.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's such a dopamine thing.
Your chemicals are changed. You're just seeing bright lights.
Nothing like it.
And they can do no wrong. And you can do no wrong in their eyes. And everything is just fantastic.
Magic. It's a fairy tale.
Exactly. And then, I don't know, 7 to 10 years in.
I would say even at first, honestly though, like even out the gate, when we're all with our best foot forward, I feel like that's about 6 months. Like I'm talking
something happens, yes.
And then you're like, did that guy really just chew that like that? That's so gross.
Yeah. But then years later, you get, I have a couple of kids, the mortgage, and you have the stress and all this life stuff, and you have people dying on you.
Oh, God.
And then it's like, wait a minute, I need my partner to show up for me, and they're not, and why not? Like, what happened?
What happened?
Did I make a mistake?
Right. Am I not worth as much as I was when we first got together? And why are my needs not as important as yours are? And a lot of the time, right, it's like, again, this is all like unhealed childhood, codependent, whatever things I didn't even know I had. And then we're in the same household, and you're going to get into this, but like, you're living with your mirror and you're in the same close quarters of yourself because you're getting reflected back all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not fun when I see myself.
It's not fun. And we do this not just in romantic relationships. We do this in friendships.
Oh, yeah.
We attract people into our lives. We do this with bosses, with coworkers. We do this with everybody that is in our life on a consistent basis. And because our souls and our spirits are drawing people to us, again, like Ginny said, that can reflect back to us what needs to be healed in ourselves.
What needs to be healed. And that's a crazy thought, because think about, anybody can relate right now. Think about the thing that annoys you the most about your partner right now, or the thing that annoys you the most about your ex-husband or your ex-wife. What is the thing? Mm-hmm. And to think, oh, that's the thing in me that needed to be healed.
Yep. Yeah. This is very interesting. And I'm probably going to do some bubble popping today. So God. I apologize.
You already did. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize for my realism.
I don't want to hear this. Yeah. It's been fun, guys. I'm out. We'll see you later. Happy Halloween. Hey, see you next season. I'm fucking out of here. Go ahead.
So the bottom line is that I'm just going to shoot straight from the hip.
Just go ahead.
I love the way that we think love should be, or what it is, and that whole falling in love stage and how magical and great it is. Mm-hmm. It's not real. It is a illusion, basically.
Right. Based off chemicals, I imagine. Well, it's real, but it's not.
It's almost like a bait and switch. It's almost like your spirit and your soul make you feel all of that chemical drop, the euphoria, the, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah, because your brain really does it. It does drop all the chemicals.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. To bring you together for this other work. And also, Ginny and I were talking before the show, for procreation.
Right. Yeah. The thing that keeps this human race going is like, it has to be with a partner.
So it needs to be that intense. It needs to be
pull you together.
Feeling so good. This is great. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. This is the one. This is the one, right?
Yeah. We're going to make a human.
Yeah, exactly. I want this person to be the father or the mother of my child.
Yeah. The part of me that continues on. I want this person to help me make that. And consciously, we don't even realize that it's like, it might not even be consciously, but again, that's like, right, our sexual attraction is a real intense, real thing.
Yes, sexual attraction is very much tied into this as well. So what we're actually doing, though, when we are attracting these people is we are attracting people that unconsciously we think will fill the void. That's
from whatever you're talking, like from childhood,
whatever needs to be healed. Yes, it all stems from childhood. And we're going to talk today about two different fathers, so to speak, of this idea. They say it in a little bit different ways, but ultimately it all goes back to childhood and that separation from your mother or your father or your primary caretaker. And I even go a step further. I talk about this in my book. My book is very much about this. I say that I believe the first separation, the first severing of this wholeness that we're constantly trying to get back to happens when we are born and we are separated from the afterlife, from God, from your creator, from whatever it is, from that perfect peace.
Right.
From that feeling of abundance and love. And all we're ever trying to do here on earth is get back to that.
Yeah. But with like the erased memory of knowing, we know it's internally there, inside, but we don't know that that's what we're searching.
Just like anything else, it's unconscious for you. It's in there.
Yeah.
That you don't know.
Yeah.
This whole thing is extremely unconscious. You don't realize it. And if the people that are in love right now will say, no, that's not true. Right? You're probably going to be like, what are you chicks talking about? Like, he is the one. Like, he is awesome.
He's amazing.
And when
everything right.
Yes. And when you hear the phrase or you hear yourself tell somebody, they complete me. Or you tell your partner, you complete me.
Like that line from Jerry Maguire that everybody was like in tears when he said it because somehow it pulls at us and they're not for everyone thought.
Yeah, because we all are searching for that thing that's going to complete us. When it comes from ourselves.
In so many different religions, that's the idea. We're going back to God. What you're saying is unconsciously, we're spending our time here on this earth still trying to get that feeling back of what it was we had like before we came to be in this body and go through like the whole human experience. So we try to find it in other people. Well, and we're being in our mother's womb. You're connected.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're born. And I wonder if that's what all crying is about.
at the beginning,
like,
just cry.
"Shit, I'm here again.
Why? Why? And you said something. It's true, and that's all your body knows how to do is cry. Isn't that for everything to survive?
Oh, yeah, I mean, like you're cold and you just went through this dark tunnel and you squeezed your head
people
through,
are screaming outside. You're like, what? My mom sounds really stressed out.
Yeah, it's a wild, wild scene. But I just can't help but feel and believe that it's because it's hard to come back into a human form when you
cold.
I just saw this movie on Friday night called After Death, and it's about people's near-death experiences.
Oh, man.
And the producers try to prove by interviewing a whole bunch of different people. And one's like a cardiologist, scientist. He didn't have a near-death experience, but he studied it for like years and years.
Probably saw a lot of people have them. And they're so similar. It's almost like, how is that all so consistent?
That's the point of the movie, is that like there's so many people having these same stories. And what was interesting and why I'm talking about this, tying it into this, coming back is hard, is because every single person who went did not want to come back. Every person that died said, I did not want to come back. One man, it was so severe. He was depressed for like a really long time. And his wife was like, why don't you want to heal? Like, why aren't you happy that you're alive?
Right. What a trip. But you know what? That's actually anything I've ever heard of near-death experience. I've never heard anybody really say, although you said they had a different perspective on some of the scarier things, but I've never heard anyone be like, yeah, please let me come back. Yeah. I was safe and warm and loved and just this is amazing.
You can't even wrap your head around it. I've done a lot of reading about it, and they say it is such an abundantly joyful and loving and peaceful place, just this glorious place that our human emotional scale cannot wrap our head around. We couldn't imagine it. We just could not imagine it.
Yeah, we don't have the hardware.
No. So because
unless you take Molly sometimes, and if it was really good Molly, hey, by the way, which I do not advise. This is not something about that. I'm just saying that it's probably that times a million without the possible killing yourself.
Yes,
so
yes.
I think it's super effective, especially for this marriage counseling and in a controlled manner and all that.
Yes, we are not advocating
absolutely
drug use at all.
Why don't they give Putin and all these guys? They should just take a Molly.
They should all these world leaders just sit in one room and start tripping together, and they'll be hugging. They'll turn over the nukes. They'll be like,
turn over the
nukes. Shit.
Give Putin a drum.
I love you.
But I'm falling in love. It's very similar, and it has to be a dopamine. But that's naturally occurring
I've
dopamine,
learned about it. It's maybe oxytocin.
Yes.
I think that's a love chemical.
And why we want more, and why it feels so great, and why everything disappears when you're in it. Even this, literally, the world vanishes. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I think those chemicals probably start to regulate, and then you're back in real life. So back to that.
Yeah, exactly. So back to the theories behind this stuff, legitimate theories. One is called Imago Theory. Now, Imago means image. I learned about this after my marriage hit the skids big time. My brother died in March 2018, and a few months later, I had met somebody, and I told my husband, I don't love you. I don't think I ever loved you. I think my decision to marry you was purely logical. It was just a good premeditated decision on my end. And he was like, your brother just died 5 months ago. Do you think maybe your grief is playing a part in this? Where is this coming from?
And you didn't think so at the moment.
Oh, no. I had a spiritual connection with somebody that actually turned out to be a spiritual awakening. And it was also coupled with a midlife crisis. And it was just...
see, that could get mistaken. Another human being was involved, therefore you're thinking the human being is the reason.
Yes.
But it's not. They're just,
no.
I mean,
I was very unhappy in my marriage for many years before. I had been asking to go to marriage counseling. We weren't doing it. Jim, we both had our issues going on. He had, I won't say had PTSD because he's just so much better now from working on himself. I'll preface this entire show with, if you want to do this work and you want your marriage to get better, two parties have to be 100% involved. My marriage is only here today because Jim did his work, and I need to commend him for his willingness to do that.
100%. And that's not an easy thing, by the way. If any of you are out there right now and you've had your partner tell you that, whether you're a female or male, right? That probably wasn't easy.
Oh, no.
I would be
devastated. We were devastated. We were both devastated because I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
What is this? We were both so
disoriented.
Oh my God. It took us about a month to get into marriage counseling, but that month was hell. I can't
even imagine.
The anxiety we both had, the confusion, the despair. So we go to marriage counseling and we unravel this whole thing that I call the great myth, this generational dysfunctional message that everybody leaves me, everybody hurts me, and I need to protect my heart.
It's the basis of Amanda's entire book, which you haven't read it. Go get it. I got to read it. It's amazing.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yes. Trust Yourself to Be All In. You can get it Amazon, her website.
Thank you.
Yes. Keep going.
So we're in counseling for a while, and COVID hits, and we stopped going in person. And
COVID in itself is,
yeah. It was like 3 years of hell. But I mean, COVID actually turned out to be really good for my family.
Us too.
We did a lot of bonding. Jim and I were in therapy for about 1.5 years at that point. So we had enough healing under our belt.
Right.
That, like, we could stand being with each other for that amount of time.
4 walls, yeah.
And we were together a lot too, because he's retired and he's older. So we were used to being together. I know a lot of couples had a really, really hard time with that.
I know a lot of people who got divorced. Like even people long, like 28-year marriages after being.
Yeah, I mean, you can't stand being with the person. You know, you realize like you had all this time out at work and this and that, and you only had to be together for this, you know. But I'm also going to tie this conversation into grief, because COVID was a major time of grief. There was a lot of upheaval, and similar to my experience, my brother had just died. There was a lot of emotional upheaval. And I think when grief happens and we're not comfortable being emotionally intimate and vulnerable with our partners, and you really need that, and you can't get it, you start to convince yourself this person's not for it. So I wonder if some of those divorces were, I can't stand him or her, but also this person's not meeting my needs because I'm not really allowing them to meet my needs because I'm afraid of emotional intimacy. So I'll get into all that.
Or I may not know my needs, or I'm somebody who's working on codependent behavior or whatever, and I don't even know necessarily what they are. Now, I think, COVID was this period of time where everyone got to like have all their shit in the spotlight, like especially if you had to be in 4 walls with other people.
And some divorce has to happen. It's about healing yourself so that you don't bring the same person into the next relationship and then recreate the same bad relationship over and over and over and over.
Right.
That's the whole point of this conversation. I just want to put that out there right now. Some divorce needs to happen.
Absolutely. And not even just that. I told Amanda before, this isn't even just about like our marriages or the people we commit to. This is also the weird myth, because it's another myth. Those of us that might be single out there or divorced or whatever, what we're hunting for. It's Beauty and the Beast. It's the thing. Disney was onto something. They knew they were going to be able to sell that. Is that maybe outdated? Is it maybe old hardware that doesn't fit where we've evolved to now? Like, are we still searching for something? It mattered back in the day when we needed to grow our tribe or have more people working on our farm, or, you know, our tribe is bigger while we're roaming the plains. Is that still there hardwired? And we think, oh, this is what I need. But maybe it's not. It's a great thing. But we used to think we needed it to survive. And that's not the case now. Now it's more like we need ourselves to survive. Yes.
Yeah, we are living in a time, we talk about this a lot, a big shift going on where it's internal work. It's just getting to a place of oneness with yourself in whatever way you can do it. I happen to do it through spiritual means, where I feel connected to something much greater than me in the universe, and it helps me to feel like I belong here and that I have a purpose here. That kind of stuff helps me to get as close to whole as I possibly can on any given day, which I feel like I'm constantly striving for. I don't think I want to ever be whole, because like I could be whole right now with what I'm capable of in this moment. But I know that there's always going to be more.
Well,
I think going to get wholer.
I think that if you're whole, you're like JC or like those dudes, Buddha. Yeah, there's a few people who have done it.
Yeah, there's just always more work to do.
There's always more work to, and it's the point. Layers. I think it's the point.
Yeah,
of what we're doing.
Yeah, of this show as well. This is just another way to get you to this place without having to rely on another person to do it for you or to make you feel whole. Because listen, people do die. People do leave.
It's the one thing we know. They're like, there's a 1 in 1 chance you will die. There's a 1 in 1 chance you will have people you care about die. Guess what, guys? It's all true.
You're not escaping grief. You're not escaping loss. You're not escaping these feelings. It is probably more prevalent, and I think I've said this before, than feeling love, because not everybody knows how to love. And I'll tell you, the message in that movie was about learning to love, having good relationships, having healthy relationships in your life was the #1 reason that people were sent back here, to mend their relationships, to learn how to love.
Wow.
So
core of it all.
I believe all that stuff. So that's why Ginny and I are here. And this episode is just another way for you to get there on your own.
Yeah, on your own. Especially because, and you were talking to Imago, you were talking about.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That was my fault, probably. I'm sure I'm really good at that. But talking about how if we could get the understanding, like, because I feel like when we're not aware that's what's happening, when we're still blaming. And again, we always say this, but again, not abuse, not those things, you guys.
Oh, yeah. This is not.
None of that.
Conversation
None of that
does not apply. If you're,
However, so a lot of times we will attract somebody who will abuse us if we watched abuse, or if we watched our mom get abused, or our dad get abused. Or, and you hear women marry men like their dads, and boys marry women like their mothers. Understand that at times when we feel so heartbroken and not complete, and like we won't be complete because our marriage failed and we failed it, that is not really what is happening. That it's not that we're less or that we failed, or it's this person's fault for my not feeling okay, my unhappiness.
Blaming somebody else for your unhappiness.
It's actually just your mirror. It's literally like putting our makeup on in the morning, like, oh, let me fix my mascara. Your partner is really the mirror of the things where you're like, oh, look, my eyeliner looks like shit. I should fix that.
Yeah, and we should be grateful for, again, I talk about being a glutton for pain. We should be grateful for these difficulties in our relationships, because how else am I going to see and get to the core of my own issues without somebody else telling me what they see in me or what they need that I'm not giving them? And that brings us back to the Imago thing.
Yeah, so tell us a little more about that.
What happens is when you meet somebody and you have these butterflies and this feeling of euphoria, what it is this subconscious sensing that the parts of your caretakers that lacked is what you think this person is now going to give to you. So, for example, you're a father and work too much and didn't give you enough attention.
Sure.
And so is so attentive. They're so attentive. And of course they're so attentive because it's the early throes.
And everybody is
attentive. And they want the attention back.
Yeah, and it feels great.
Yeah. And it's how do you get somebody to fall in love with you? You give them a lot of attention. Or whatever other things that we need. But truly underneath it all, you are recreating the same emotional abandonment that you went through. As
almost
a child.
to fix it, almost like to be like a time machine. You don't even realize that's what you're doing.
Yes.
If you could fix it now, then it will fix when dad wasn't around because it was working.
That's what we're constantly trying to do.
We attract dad who works too much. We attract the husband who is literally the thing that caused the pain.
Because ultimately, he might be texting you 15 times a day, but he's at work 22 hours a day. The truth is this person cannot give you. You may be attracting a workaholic or whatever it is. Like, my issue was with emotional intimacy.
Right.
And I thought at the onset that Jim could give this to me. That's my husband, Jim. And you see what you want to see, too. Your lens, your perception is just what you want to see.
We're amazing at how we can focus that shit.
We can tweak that until it works for us.
Yeah. Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is blurry. And then it comes back into the focus later. You're like, what is that?
But I didn't even know about the whole emotional intimacy thing.
Yeah.
I learned this in the therapy. I learned this after. I just thought he was the best thing since sliced bread. He's a fireman. He owns his own house. He lives down in Long Beach on the beach. He's happy.
It's pretty awesome.
He's over riding bikes on the boardwalk, and the wind is blowing through my hair, and the sunset.
Was there music?
Just
music in the background?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, there's my phone.
That was perfect. Oh, was there music? And then the music game. That was very cool. I love that. See? That's how real it was.
There we go.
The universe is like, let us show you. This is what Jim and Amanda were doing on the boardwalk.
We are on.
Yeah, but perfect.
Okay. So that's what I want from him, but I don't realize that that's what I want. But the truth is, I was attracted to him because at that time, he couldn't give me that. I couldn't give it to him either. Okay?
Right.
We both were in a place where his PTSD, which he didn't even know he had at the time, his experiences, his own childhood experiences, my childhood experiences, we did not know how to be emotionally intimate and vulnerable with one another. And even though my soul wanted that, my spirit wanted that, at the time I was a year sober. I didn't know what the hell I didn't even know the phrase emotional intimacy.
You were 1 year sober?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's early.
And it is. I hit my 1 year and I was like, oh, okay.
He never got to know
Flanagan guy.
He never knew drunk you.
No. We never knew drunk each other. Kids never knew.
That's right. Because how many years does he have now?
He has 27. We're 10 years apart. So he had 11 years.
He had, and by the way, that was probably so he was a rock. Like a rock.
Yes.
So stable.
Secure. He had security, which
and in
was
his sobriety.
extremely, yes, in many ways, in every way.
Yeah.
But really, he didn't. This is what I'm trying to say. Everything came together perfectly, but underneath, he had a very unstable foundation from his PTSD, which came out at different points before we got married.
You saw little signals.
There were signs. There were some couple big ones, which we can laugh about now. But like, ultimately, I didn't want that vulnerability and emotional intimacy. I felt safe because he wasn't going to push me to that place that I didn't want to go to.
Not even consciously, but subconsciously, you knew it as you were attracted to him. You're
subconsciously.
Like, perfect. This is somebody who's never going to take me to the place of the vulnerability that I need to be at.
Yep. But I thought
differently.
We had it. I thought we did because that falling in love stage is so persuasive. It's so
it's a physical thing happening. There's literally your brain's doing things. It's not just like, oh, I'm imagining.
You're like powerless against it, and it shows up on time. It shows up when it needs to show up. It's very, again, it's like this sneaky little thing, and so
bait and switch, like you said, to get you in, get you in the game,
you in to do this work that we're talking about. So basically, what I wound up doing is recreating similar emotional abandonment that I received from various experiences through my childhood. And then again, with this message of everyone leaves, everyone hurts you. And it was like, okay, so I know he's a fireman. I know he's been through 9/11.
It's a risky job.
Most likely, he's sick. He's 12 and a half years older than me. So looking back, I set this whole thing up very purposefully.
To make the thing you felt safe believing true.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's been passed on too. It's like it's been around for a while through.
Well, exactly. This is past life stuff. This is my mission. This is why I'm back here now.
Could be from another life.
Choosing him.
Yeah, you lost a family, like you lost a loved one, some other life.
I've heard from a medium that he was actually a son of mine who went off to war and never came back. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I believe it or not, but I know that he and I are brought together
to do this
work.
Oh my God.
I made a commitment and a decision in the afterlife to come back and heal my fear of future loss, because that's what this all comes down to.
And this makes so much sense to me. And like
the grief, Jeremy dying, and then I pushed my husband away because I thought he was next.
Yep. It's just awesome. We're talking about it. We tell you guys all the time that there's so many times where we're in the middle of real time things of even in our own lives. So this is super helpful for me too, because being in a marriage, the other part of that is like, sometimes it may not be that emotional side, or maybe it's financial. Maybe it's the stability thing. And everything you're saying right now, I think my husband and I signed some cool soul contracts on the energy of money, the energy of how money brings stability, the energy of creating these situations. And some of it has come from our parents, from the stuff behind us. And it's amazing how like everything you're saying right now makes so much sense, because if we don't get it, it comes up again.
It just keeps coming
up again.
And the signs were there with Jim and I for years. We pushed it down, or we ignored it, or whatever, or we just weren't. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. I think I've said that before too.
Yeah.
I love that one because I could not see this. That's why they call it unconscious and subconscious, because this stuff is working itself out without us even knowing it. And then all of a sudden an event happens, which I, again, bring it back to the grief.
Yeah.
My brother dies. Now I have to deal with my cousin her death 4 months before him, and all my aunts, and then my childhood trauma, and
all of it.
My father's infidelity, and like all of this loss that I've had throughout my entire life.
But all kind of the same, and it's all kind of the same themed emotion.
It's the same thing.
It's resting underneath.
Yeah. It's grief. That's why my whole jam is grief and loss, because I think everything goes back to the fact that we don't know how to process loss and grief and wishes and fantasies and not just people.
Or to understand why we search for these fantasies, guys. Like for me, what I'm hoping out there that somebody's listening to this going, like the person who's single, and again, why can't I find the right woman or man or whatever? Like, why can't I find the right partner? And thinking, I'm going to feel so much better when I do, or things will feel complete. You don't have to search after that thing anymore and continue to feel like you're failing or you're never going to find the right person, because the truth of the matter is you're really only searching for that in order to do the healing that's within you first.
Yes.
So if you're out there in that place right now and you're like, I'm tired of this, then maybe you can hear this and have that, like, let it resonate with you that your ultimate goal is to be doing the work on yourself anyway, even though you're searching for this person. So maybe just start to do that work, or know that you're going to find that happiness as you start to do the work on yourself. You don't have to search for the person.
No. The search is over. Who is that? Who thinks that? So, yeah, you know what? You are right before your eyes. Go look in the mirror.
It's not, you're not.
It's over. It's
It
you.
is.
You
It
found your perfect partner. It's you. And then when you get into that energy,
You're going
that's
to
when you
attract the other person. So it's almost like you got to flip the script is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Not only can you do it, it's what's going to help you find the healthiest person.
It's not going to come first. You're not going to find the person without doing this work. It's just not going to happen.
No. And if you do, there's a good chance it's the wrong person.
Yeah, or it's just not going to last because they're going to be like, hey, yo, like, this is not what I signed up for.
Or you're going to realize you're repeating, you're attracting still to you because the end goal is to heal the thing in you. Amanda was talking to me a little bit earlier about this, and this blew my mind because I didn't know it. So it tells me a bunch of you don't know it. Talk about the whole thing about by the time we're 2 years old and...
Okay, so I was reading I was on a trip recently. I was on the plane and my husband's been reading The Road Less Traveled.
I got to pick that one up, man.
What a classic. And
I need to read it. Did you finish it?
No, I didn't finish it, but I read certain parts of it, and the parts that I read, it was so perfect because I knew that we were going to be talking about this concept on our show, and I was like, oh my God, M. Scott Peck, he wrote The Road Less Traveled.
Mm-hmm. How old is it?
A long time ago. Let me see. Hold on. I have
like 70s? Is my guess?
I feel like it's the 70s. I have the...
Let's see how right I am.
And I'm going to put this in the show notes.
76.
78.
Oh,
very close. Very,
nice.
very close. So... what she says, and I'm reading, I'm like,
my dad had this book in our house. That's so weird. I just recognized
this is
the
an old cover. This is old. Anyway, as I'm reading, I'm like, oh my God, this is like Imago stuff. Getting the Love You Want is the name of the book that Imago is in. I will put that in the show notes as well. That's by Harville Hendrix and Helen LaKelly Hunt. And then The Road Less Traveled is by M. Scott Peck. And what he says is when you're born, right, every time you cry, typically somebody comes to feed you, change you, rock you, take care of your needs.
All the things.
So you have this feeling, he uses the word omnipotent. Omnipotent. So that means you are all powerful. You're like
crazy. That your first experience if you're in a healthy environment.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. You're like, I'm everything. Look at this.
And I love that he talks about it this way too in that healthy environment because this stuff doesn't just come from having a messed up childhood. This is natural stuff. And we talked about Imago with the emotional abandonment.
Yeah.
That happens very naturally too, just from this nature of having to raise a child and growing up. Yes. Being left at preschool, crying in your crib, all these different ways that or daddy can't be at the recital because he has to go to work again. Just the nature of life.
Yeah. Being a human.
Parents aren't purposefully trying to abandon their children. Most of them, I don't think.
Some are, but they're not well.
And there's a whole spectrum. There's a whole spectrum of this. And this stuff happens to every single freaking human being. Doesn't matter.
Can't be a human and not experience it on some level.
Well, what happens is, so until 2, you feel this sense of omnipotence.
So you're everything.
You're it. Center of the universe. I cry, they answer, right? All of a sudden, around 2 years old, terrible twos. Moms or dad start saying, no, honey, you have to potty train. Or you have to learn how to do this for yourself. You need to get dressed. You need to pick up your spoon and,
Here's how we eat.
Whatever it is.
Here's how we reach for toys for ourselves.
And we have limits to our own power, basically, is what happens. And this ego boundary creates. And that's crazy. And it creates a sense of loneliness that now I am separate from this person. It is a separation.
And why are you taking away from me the feeling I had?
Yes, I want that. Similar to the afterlife. Coming back, being born. I want that feeling. I want that all-powerful, abundant, like love. Like this person loves me so much. And power, exactly. To me, that's another sense of loss, right? You're going through this other loss.
Has to be. And we actually are wired to forget or not know. Most of us don't have. I don't know anybody who's conscious to go, I remember being 2, and when all of a sudden I realized I wasn't everything.
No.
None of us remember.
I don't think anybody probably remember. I think,
and we're by design. But go ahead, because that's wild to me.
It's very, very interesting. So now you have this feeling of I have limits, and my ego has limitations. They call it ego boundaries. So now you meet somebody, and you merge, use the word merging with another person, and it's a temporary escape back to that
feeling.
Merging with your mother in infancy or your father. Typically your mother, right? You're on the chest, you're skin to skin for most.
When you were in their body for 9 months, 10 months, whatever it is.
So that's why I say mother, because it's typically that mother attachment.
Right. Safety.
Yeah, so you're back.
them.
You're back in the womb. You're back. You're
back
safe
in the
again.
womb.
That person is it. You are just, green lights everywhere.
Yeah, it's like everything else goes away even. You don't even see anything else.
My
except that
therapist, when
person.
she was doing work with us, she used the metaphor of a wide open room, white walls. It's beautiful. It's pristine. It's crisp. There's nothing there. And all of a sudden, the money problems happen, the child problems happen, the mother-in-law problems happen, whatever the hell it is.
Have you heard of like blended families? The shit that'll go on there.
There's so many. I mean, like freaking.
There's so many things.
So what happens is, so you have this issue and you put it in a box. This is where the whole unpacking, I'm doing air quotes, the unpacking comes from. So unless they had unpack and then this idea came after. Anyway, so you put the issue in the box, you put the box up on a shelf, or maybe you talk about it for, I don't know, a week or so, but you're not getting anywhere. So you put it in the box and you put the box on the shelf.
Oh, yeah.
Keep going along, going to work, going on vacation, everything's good, and then boom, something else comes up. You talk about it for a minute, put it in the box, because you don't know how to find a solution.
And the box is like getting heavier on that stupid cheap wire shelf.
So the boxes are starting to build up, and all of a sudden you step into this room together and you are claustrophobic.
And the box, when
you can't get out, you're stuck, you're trapped. And the natural inclination is to turn around and run out of the room.
Or really take if someone's like, they have a panic moment and you're like, what did you say to me? Or don't accuse me or don't blame me. And then it's like, but you did this and I'm terrible with the bills. And
and it's so overwhelming. And then you're like, man, this just isn't working. And I'm just going to leave because, I don't see any way that this thing is going to work out. So then what you do in therapy, and I highly recommend marriage counseling if you're having problems, you start taking the boxes off. One
a little bit
by
at a
one,
time and not
with a
being super overwhelmed of like, we'll never be able to go through these. A professional can be like, we're going to take the first one, just one by one.
And then eventually you get through all of them. So after those problems come up, what M. Scott Peck talks about is that you pull away. You separate from the person. You retreat back into
almost
your
like
own self.
Your terrible twos when you're having a tantrum a little bit. When your mom has to be like, listen.
You're pissed.
You're pissed.
So those ego boundaries snap back into place, similar to that loss of power of like, wow, this is not actually what I thought it was going to give me this relief. I actually cannot get that relief.
I guess in my mind, that's what I wonder about. Talking about the marriages, 7 years, and then there's that 7-year thing, the cycle of the 7 years, 7-year itch, all those, that's a real thing. And they were saying, I think like 48% of marriages fail at that point.
Oh, I would definitely believe that because you're faced with this major task and challenged with getting really vulnerable, learning how to be emotionally intimate, the thing that most of us fear more than everything, and really opening up and meeting this person on a deeper level and healing your childhood wounds. That's what this all
stems down to.
Back to.
So even those of us that are in failed marriages, like whatever's happening with you in your search or situation, the idea, at least as I'm hearing all this, is like, there's a hope and some promise when you understand that, like, this search you're on, that's not what you're really looking for. So you don't need to feel like you're failing.
And the beauty of it is that when you sit down and you do this work, because in the Imago specifically, this is what we did, so we did this on our own during COVID. That's why I started talking about COVID before.
You guys had some big huevos, man, to do that during COVID. Like, it's not like you could go run anywhere. You're doing all this work.
It was, I told you, I'm a glutton for pain.
You really are.
I just put myself in these situations.
Like, world pandemic. Let's dig into the deep stuff.
Yeah, I think because I had done a lot of grief work right before it. I lost my brother. I had some issues with different family members, and I had kind of grieved the fantasy of the wishes of how some of those might look on.
Even if it's parents or siblings.
I did a lot of work around grief, so I feel like I could go into that. And that's why I do this work, and I'm a glutton for pain, because I know what comes. I know the other side. Rewards of it. Yeah. So, again, I'm no better than anybody else. I'm just desperate because if I don't do this work, I might drink, and for me to drink is to die. So, to bring it back to reality here, I'm not this, like, great,
The sage is with this the great sage from the top of the hill.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm so strong and I got this. No, I do this out of fear, out of straight up fear.
That's a huge thing, and thank you so much for sharing that, because probably are people who are like, yeah, but this chick doesn't know what it feels like. She's got her shit so together. And meanwhile, like, what you're saying is like, it's not that.
And I still have problems. It's not like I did this work and everything is great.
Yeah.
I'm constantly doing this work. I don't do this work and everything is great and my marriage is awesome and we never
Everything's
fight
perfect.
and we're in love. Yeah, like we have many, many, many more better moments. We're just more connected and we feel safer talking to each other about stuff. But there's times I'm, in a bad space or I'm hormonal or whatever is going on in my life where I'm rude or I'm just nasty or whatever, right? And then I have to apologize. I have to own my part.
Yeah.
It's just a process.
Constantly.
Life is a process. That's it. Progress, not perfection. But I've definitely made some strides for sure. So the beautiful thing about doing the Imago work is that when your partner says to you, hey, I need you to be more whatever. I need you to be more patient with me. Are you willing to do that? And you make a decision, you make a commitment, and you say, yes, I'm willing. I'm at least willing to try. So in the process of me learning to be more patient to serve somebody else's needs, I'm healing the piece of me that is impatient, right? So I'm healing my own wound of having a lack of patience
By working on it through.
by doing it to help my marriage and my relationship get better. So it's not like, oh, I got to change to meet this person's needs and I got to be what they want me to be. No, it's about you healing your own stuff by using that relationship as a catalyst, as the reason, as the, I want this thing to stay together. And if those reasons outweigh the reasons not to, then you do this work and you become more whole in the process. And then your marriage becomes more whole. I remember she said to us, that therapist, Tracy, she's amazing. She said, you need to get whole. You need to get whole. Talking, we were sitting on the couch. And then you need to come together as a third whole. So his whole, your whole, and your third whole. So we exist separately as our own individual, right? Look at it like a Venn diagram. One circle inside is you, one circle is them, and then you meet in the middle.
Right.
But then you retreat back into your own individuality.
And you have to have your own individuality. And I think that's where some of these things in relationships can start to get dicey with any of us, right? The insecurity and the being threatened. If we don't have enough of the constant anchor within ourselves, we start more so reaching out.
Oh, yeah. We get desperate. It's like these desperate attempts for this person to make me feel better. When in your own little circle over there, you can go back in there. And yes, that's where your wholeness is. That's where you refill your tank. That's where you rejuvenate. You're not looking for this other person to do it for you anymore.
Yeah.
You do it for yourself.
Yep.
How empowering is that?
Well, incredibly. It's empowering. And a lot of the reasons we get into these massive battles and fights with our spouses and one another is because, again, it's like, well, you're not giving me what I need. You're not following what I believe to be the way you should be. It's like when we all of a sudden disconnect from that expectation that can never be met and realize like, oh, wait, hold on. I actually have the resources to fix this here, not out, but in.
100%. And also bringing it back to the whole loss idea, you have to go through a grieving process that maybe this person is never really going to give you what that thing is that you think you need from them.
And you can't continue to be mad at him or her or the world or God or whoever for
just not knowing how to do it any better.
Yeah.
So it's a loss of these expectations, and then based on your partner's limitation, you say, okay, maybe I don't need them necessarily to give it to me. I can give it to myself.
Because a lot of people then start to go, I'm failing because I'm not giving them what they need.
But it's their job to give them what they need.
Right.
We are not their mothers or fathers.
Right.
That's what this all goes back to. Like Freud
What
was
a
so
hard
big
thing.
on all that.
And for generations and generations and generations, they talk about, what's insanity, doing the same thing and expecting something different. Well, it met the needs a few hundred years ago. It met the needs to grow the tribe and to grow the pack. That hardwiring doesn't meet the needs anymore.
All these shifts is what we talk about. The shifts going on out there are reflections of shifts that need to happen inside.
Yeah.
And the insanity, too. I actually heard somebody say insanity, another definition is continuing to replay the past, hoping for a different outcome.
Oh, my gosh.
Right?
How many of us do that? I do that. I do that a lot.
So
and focus on it even to the point where as if you really, some part of you is like, no, I will change this.
Yeah, like I will make them be this. Because ultimately, if you make them change and make them be something, like we talked about before, we're actually trying to change our parents and our upbringing. We are fascinating creatures.
We really are.
I mean, we are complex, and the stuff might feel a little difficult to grasp. And again, go get that book, Getting the Love You Want, or read, The Road Less Traveled. It's not all about that. That's just a tiny part. It's just a tiny part of the book is where he talks about this.
I need to read that.
So what these concepts, what they're both trying to do is help you to turn that falling in love into real love. That's what M. Scott Peck talks about it. And in Imago Theory, it's called romantic love turning into true love. So ultimately what you learn to do is, instead of that whole butterfly, euphoric, oh, I'm in love feeling, it's a more compassionate love. It's more of a partnership, and it becomes more of having each other's back no matter what. It's like all these different qualities come out in your relationship, and it's just a beautiful experience. And the whole falling in love, romantic love, has nothing to do with your spiritual development. Yeah, it feels good, like we're in this great space, but we're learning how to be in true love and to be in real love is really what N. Scott Peck says. He says, is doing things for your partner that you don't always want to do. It's doing shit that you don't want to do. You're like, no, I don't want to do that. You should do that. Right?
No idea what you're talking about. This makes zero sense, Amanda.
So sacrificing yourself, being selfless, the whole way that we build our character is by being emotionally selfless. And listen, you got to balance with the codependency, right? Like, I'm not saying
it's a fine line.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should be doing everything all the time, but some things you should be willing to do. Just because you don't want to and not should, you could. For me, I should do it because
without an expectation of a repayment.
Because it's growing my own spirituality and my own character and my integrity and my
and you're trusting yourself.
I do this. It's for me, and then my husband benefits. Our relationship benefits. My children benefit because I'm happier.
Yep. You're able to be more selfless to somebody if you have taken care of your own shit.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't, you have nothing to give. You're pulling from an empty well.
I mean, we're not going to solve all the problems here in an hour in your relationship, but the whole point of this episode is to help you evolve into a more spiritually enlightened, emotionally mature human being. Because that's all your soul really wants to do. And the more
closer to loving yourself.
Self-love. Self-love. That's it in a nutshell. In a nutshell, that is what we are doing here on Earth, is learning how to love ourselves. And then
which will allow us to love each other.
Again, right? That whole thing, the near-death experience, that's what they came back saying. So the trouble is a call to action, right? That's why we need to be grateful for this. And the midlife crisis really could be a spiritual awakening. And that breakdown can be a breakthrough. If I can look at it that way and say, well, what's the opportunity for growth?
Instead of, well, this is uncomfortable, so I'm out.
I'm out. And our society just is so, oh my God, makes that
we're so for it.
Justified.
Oh, yeah.
So justified.
Just hop on an app and be like, swipe right, swipe left.
Yeah. And listen, you try it, doesn't work out. Like I said, not every relationship is supposed to work out. But at least you have a better shot in the next one of not having to do this again.
Right.
Because you're going to have to do this at some point.
No matter what situation you're in, even the really tough, challenging ones, understand that they are brought to you to move on to the next level with yourself. If you can focus in and do the work, I think it's just going to take away maybe some of the pain or abandonment or something. I don't know. In my mind, in my mind,
you are now showing up for yourself.
Yes.
Nobody can abandon you when you have yourself.
Nope. And your book, I really, really had a lot ring true to me about developing the relationship of trusting, showing up for myself.
Trust yourself to be all in doesn't necessarily mean with others. It means with you.
Yeah, with you.
It's all in with you.
Yep.
And then you can be in with others.
Yeah. And to also know that when we're running from others, there's a good chance we're not in with ourselves.
Exactly. This whole thing we're talking about, this has nothing to do with your partner. Your marriage troubles have nothing to do with your partner and everything to do with you. Again, we're not talking about blatant disrespect and abuse. And we're just talking about like regular crap that comes up in marriages. So, all right, we're going to throw out a challenge here to you guys. So, are you really being fair in your relationship? Are you being realistic about what your partner can offer you? Or when you met, did you kind of put that on them and it wasn't really even true?
Wasn't even a real expectation that could be met.
Yeah. Like you wanted to see that so badly and then you wanted them to do that for you, but they really couldn't. So is it fair now to expect them to show up in this way for you that they really never were able to?
Right.
So get honest. It always goes back to being honest with yourself.
And really, really be honest. And it's okay if you don't like how it feels because you're not going to. I'll just tell you that right now.
This work that we talk about, I mean, if you've been with us, if you've listened to even 2 shows, you know that that's a constant theme with us, is that this is not easy stuff. This is not for the faint of heart.
But it's not going to kill you.
It's not, and in fact, it will kill you when you don't do it. You know, it's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out with addiction, or it's going to come out with stress, or whatever, you know. So if you're that miserable over it. So in that honesty, ask yourself if you can accept your partner's limitations. Like they just don't have it in them. Are you willing to live with that? You may not be, and that's fine.
Or are you just going to sit here and continue to try to bang your head into a wall and change them and be convinced you're going to change them? Or can you actually say, hey, you know what? They're not capable of doing this. Like, how long am I? Either I'm going to stay in this and accept them for these things, or I need to figure out, get a move on.
That's either going to be acceptable or unacceptable. And acceptable doesn't always mean that you're happy with it. It's just an acknowledgement and saying, okay, I get it. They can't do it, but can I have compassion because they can't do this thing that really ultimately is holding them back from being whole. So instead of looking at them as like, oh, this, you know, MFer can't do this, how about like,
what are you talking about, Amanda? Who's ever said something like that about their spouse?
Say, you know what, I kind of feel bad for them and I have compassion because they're not 100% free because they can't step into this space that I need them to step into to be a whole person, right? Being a whole person means a whole bunch of different characteristics and qualities. So maybe it's time for you to stop expecting your partner or anybody else, any other relationship in your life, stop expecting them to meet your needs and finally meet them for yourself. Put your big girl pants on. Pants. Actually, just so Ginny's potential new boss.
Yeah.
She's known for a long time, and her nickname is Pants.
Yeah. It's a great start. It was so good to see all you guys, too, by the way. They were hilarious. But yeah, that was my nickname's Pants. Yep.
Yes. So pull up the pants, you know, do whatever you got to do.
Or your big boy pants.
Big boy pants. And do it. Just identify these things and say, can I give this to myself now? Without resentment. That's the hard part.
And like take responsibility. That's a bunch of bullshit, Amanda. You're saying I need to take responsibility for these things?
To actually have to be a mature
this
adult.
This is nonsense.
Is that under the definition of adulting? Do I actually have to do that?
That's it. I quit. I quit adulting.
And I tell you, some days I can and some days I can't. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm just grateful for the days that I can.
Yeah, me too. I can't.
It's better than having no days.
This week I have -3 days.
-3.
Everybody can go down sad this week. Everybody.
Even me. I was sick yesterday.
And I love Amanda more than anyone. But everybody, I want all of you, just go line up and pound sand on the sand beach. I want to hear any of it from any of you. It's okay. I'll get there. It's still only, what's today? Wednesday? I got a couple days.
Wednesday.
See if I can make up some demerits.
Yeah. I think you have some in the bank. I think you have some.
Too better cash them in.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
So anyway, yeah, that's about it. And if you really, want to get serious, if you and your partner are both serious about doing this work, go order that book, Getting the Love You Want. I definitely don't get any kickbacks. I am not an advertiser person. I am not getting money. I'll put that out there right now.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you, I know. There's definitely no money being had here for this.
There is zero money coming in for this podcast. We will tell you right now.
Zero, not.
So go get that book.
That's how you know Amanda's being genuine about it. And in fact, it's a great suggestion. And I could probably stand and get that book too. So maybe I will.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. There's times that you're going to want to just like run away, but give yourself a week or two. Give yourself a breather and say, okay, let's meet up in a couple weeks and try again.
Do you feel like the same tools could work for somebody who's in between like a divorce and a relationship, or who's single and just out of a divorce? Do we know of any of that?
I'd say just like the Cliff Note version would just be like, try to think about your past relationships and think about what that person said to you.
You could still do the work on a past relationship. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be with your partner right now. Maybe you're still hanging on to things from the old partner.
Sure. Yeah.
You could still do this work.
Not through Getting the Love You Want. You need to do it with a partner. But think about the stuff that people have told you throughout your life, whether they're best friends, whether they're partners, whether they're parents. And say, I'm actually going to take a look at that. And I'm going to see what part of that is true. Some of it might not be, but some of it might really serve you well to take a look at it. And say, yeah, you know what? I've always been yearning for this person to fill this void. But maybe it's because I don't give it to myself or to others. Your partner said, I feel judged by you, right? Look inside yourself and say, where in my life, especially my childhood, did I feel judged? Did my parents judge me? Did I get shamed? And now am I judging others almost as a defense mechanism? Your brain is wild. The heart, the soul, the whole thing that works together is wild, but there are no mistakes. And your childhood was the way it was supposed to be for this healing. I look at my kids a lot and I say to Jim all the time, we're trying to do this thing right, but these kids are going to have their own soul missions. They have their own work to do, and we are the perfect people to mess them up to get them to do it.
We're perfect. Yeah. Yes.
That's just how it goes, right? I'm
It's
grateful.
true.
I'm grateful for all my troubles, all my problems. I'm grateful for every single person that has put an obstacle in my path that I've had to hop over or hobble over at times.
Yeah. And also, like, listen, you guys, if it's at a point right now, I mean, and I can tell you, I'm kind of familiar. It feels like it's like a pressure cooker. And those times in life when everything feels like it's coming at you at once in this weird, like, why is this happening? There's like something, your higher self is like, oh my gosh, you're right there.
Yes.
I'm telling you that because it's what I'm telling myself. I need to remember to hear that myself because this last couple of weeks has felt that way for me very much, concentrated. And some of it is stuff I've created and a lot of it is not. It's random circumstances. I was sharing with Amanda earlier that I had no control over, but it's all happening in the same 7 days. And it's probably because there's just something right there. There's a breakthrough for me right there. And I believe you are at the same spot. If you've had a couple weeks that you're just like, what?
Yeah. Don't run away. It's like I'm thinking of like a volcano, like building you up to your. Don't like run away into like the nearest village. You'd hide.
Don't be scared of the loud whistle when it's like, when it starts pressure releasing.
Like just blow up with it and just be like, yes, I'm going to see what I need to see and I'm going to heal what I need to heal and I'm not going to run from it because it's going to come back.
Yeah, and the dust will eventually settle. So you might as well just get in there.
Yes.
Get in there and do it. Yeah. Good stuff, you
guys. Yes. Thank you so much for hanging with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us in this journey and this season as we wrap it up, man. It means the world. And thank you guys, because seriously, it's been transformation for us. And we really hope that you've not felt alone and you've been able to realize you're not alone if you're in the middle of transformation too. And we cannot wait to see you in season 2.
Congratulations to us, to Soul Rising, for making it through 16 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah, baby.
16 episodes.
And we will see you in a couple weeks. With, hopefully, we're planning to have our good friend Patrick Thrasher on.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah, he's amazing.
The first bunch of shows are going to be the shows that we've been on. And we're going to be talking to Patrick about music.
Yeah.
And about how that evokes emotion. And about how it gets us through tough times and it makes good times even better. Patrick's awesome.
He's amazing. You guys are going to love him.
All right, guys.
We love you. Peace out.
If this podcast resonates with you and you want to dive deeper, check out my blog, Get Real, all in on love, loss, and connection at AmandaMcCoyFlanagan.com. That's McCoy with a K. You can also follow me on Instagram at Amanda McCoy Flanagan.
See you next time. Until then, let that soul rise.